Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sal Pitera channel, and today we have a really cool treat with you. We are on board the Carnival Glory with headliner comedian Sid Davis, and we're going to talk about his career and how he got his job on Carnival and pretty much everything in between when we come back right after this. Hey everybody, welcome back again. We are on board the Carnival Glory, and last night I had the privilege and honor of watching Sid Davis, the headliner comedian, and I'll tell you, if you haven't checked out his act, you need to come aboard a cruise ship or find his webpage. Are you on Facebook?
Oh yeah, all over Facebook, Instagram, and all that, yeah.
Find his page, see where he's going to be, and I'll tell you, if you're a connoisseur of comedy and you enjoy it as much as I do, it's definitely an act that you have to see. So Sid, first I want to thank you for sitting down with us and taking time out of your day to tell my audience a little about yourself.
Well, we look like two peas in a pod here. I bet
Lack of hair, right?
You could go on stage and do my show and pull it off.
Do you get, when you go into port, do you get, especially in Mexico, do you get the Mr. Clean comments all the time?
No, and if they say it in Spanish, I wouldn't understand it. I got to find out what clean means in Spanish.
I get that constantly in port. Mr. Clean, come on over. And if they think it's a compliment, it's going to like draw you in. But
yeah, I didn't even know that they still sell that.
So Sid, you're a professional comedian, and you're from Ohio, the same neck of the woods as me.
I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. Cincinnati Reds fan, and I love baseball. I still follow baseball as much as I can out here, you know, with the Wi-Fi situation. But and I'm a Cleveland Indians fan now. I've become a baseball fan. I love who's winning. So
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Were you a Reds fan through the whole Marge shot?
Through the big red machine, the whole Marge shot. We didn't know Marge was so evil when she owned the team. But I even had a picture of my son when he was a toddler taken with Marge and sign, and it was exciting till about 7 years later, and then we burned it.
How old are you, Sid?
I'm 61 years old. I turned 61 in March.
Wow, 61. You look a lot younger than 61. And everybody says that, but
obviously
you can tell. So let's talk about growing up. I mean, did you always know you wanted to be a comedian? How early did you figure out that that you were funny?
Well, I make jokes in my act about being ADHD, which was undiagnosed at the time. You know, they didn't even have a word for it. I was an excitable child or restless and all that. But I was maybe tried to be a class clown, wanted attention and all that. But at that point in life, when I got attention, I didn't know what to do with it now. And then over time and maturity, I still crave attention, but I get a big dose of it an hour a night, and then it's gone, and I'm kind of recluse after that, not a loner. I don't have to have attention all the time, and I've learned that I like to listen to other people, and that's where I get a lot of my material. Is I don't always have to be on, and people, when they see a comedy show where they meet you and all that, really enjoy speaking with the entertainer, because I did. Whenever I'd see a comedian, I'd want that moment, where he acknowledged that I existed, and I knew better not to tell the comic a joke at the time. That hasn't.
A lot of people don't figure that out, though.
No, but you want your moment with that entertainer, and there's lots of them out there that I learned from. Rob Schneider, I call it the doctor's office thing. When the doctor comes in to see you, and he only spends 2 minutes with you, but you feel like that 2 minutes you're the center of the universe, and that's how you got to do that. John F. Kennedy had that, and Bill Clinton had that. It's just a charisma thing that I don't have it naturally, but I'm working on it, But that's very important to me.
At what age did you decide to become a comedian, and did you do anything else, like in the meantime, like when you hit adulthood? Would you have another career before being a professional comedian?
When I was 16, my dad we flew to California to visit my sister, who was at UCLA, and we got to see the Johnny Carson Tonight Show. And I sat in there, and I've never been in anywhere that had so much electricity in the audience. And I don't know if you've ever been to any TV tapings.
I have.
Like Letterman or Conan or all that, Leno. They all come out and address the audience before the show and say, hey, laugh at the monologue, yada, yada, yada. Well, the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon came out, which that was enough to give me goosebumps at 16, because this is going to
Sure.
TV to million. and you never saw Johnny until the actual show was taped. And that always made an impression on me, because it was like, here's the Pope standing on the balcony, here
Right.
He's coming out, and I think that's what electrified the audience and made that show different in the many ways. It was superior to all the other talk shows, but I caught the bug right then. I'm like, listen how these people react to. John Travolta was on that night, and
Sure.
I said that the adoration that they get, and then I just fell in love with that. So I went to Ohio University and wanted to be on the radio, because I realized I didn't have a face for TV.
I used to be on radio, so.
And then when I was in radio, they said, being on the mics, there's no money in it. Sales
Right.
is where it's at. So I hate selling. I'm good at it. I can do it, but I hate bugging people, because I don't like to be bugged. But I became a radio salesman right out of college, and I hated it, and I got fired, and then that led to the long road of years later selling insurance and working in an airline, and then retiring from the airline, and then I
I
joined.
worked for an airline as well.
Did you?
Yeah.
Which one?
Delta.
Delta?
Akron, Canton.
Yeah. I worked for Piedmont and U.S. Air, and then U.S. Airways, now an American. But
It's a shame Johnny's still not here with us, because Johnny Carson was known for really making comedians careers. If you were a comedian and were privileged enough to actually get on the Tonight Show, and
Right.
then if Johnny gave you that wave over when he was done to come over and talk to him when the 4 or 5 minute act was done, I mean, that would literally make a comedian's career.
yeah, and I regret, when I was right out of college, not doing that, going to either New York or L.A. and getting in with that group, 40 years ago, because I think I would have done really good.
I think you would have killed it. I saw your act last night. I think you would have killed it.
Yeah, but I had, my wife got pregnant. I raised a family, so I was like 20, almost 25 years behind the curve I wanted to be on. But if it's tough to say I wish I would have done it that way, because then you're telling your wife and your family, I wish you wish you wouldn't have done it, which is not true. But,
Right, because you wouldn't have the life you have now.
but if I would have taken a different path, I think my career would be different. But I'm very happy with it now. This is my retirement. I love it.
Do you remember, I have a good friend, shameless plug, if you're in Akron, go see the Funny Stop. A good friend of mine owns that club.
Pete.
And Pete and Tony, and they're always trying to get me to go up and do their amateur night, because I think I'm funny. Other people tell me I'm funny.
Yeah, I think you could be funny.
And I wrote down some life experiences that I tell like kind of on a regular basis, and people laugh at them. But do you remember your very first time taking the mic for comedy, and how did it go?
Well, as a matter of fact, I did a junior miss pageant when I was I was about 30 years old, because I remember my son was a baby, and all I knew was that I had to do some material in front of this big audience, and so I took so many jokes from Gallagher's act,
Gallagher's great.
and they killed, But at the time, I didn't know that was a taboo to do in comedy, and it was only like a one-time thing. But later in life, I joined Toastmasters when I was just about ready to retire from the airline. And I've always had a wit, and then they had a contest for the humorous speaking. And I won that 2 years in a row. And then I tried stand-up comedy at the Comedy Zone there in Charlotte. And then, went through the whole process of becoming an MC, and then a middle opening act, and then, eventually headlining.
How did your first time on stage go? Did you bomb or did you do great?
It was great, because it was a comedy class where you go like 7 weeks and write material, and I had some pretty good material. But the graduation night, where you do your first set in front of an audience, it's like an at-bat at Yankee Stadium.
Sure.
And it's full of all your friends and supporters. So.
And being a DJ, I mean, you were used to the microphone, so it probably made it a lot easier for you.
So when you get your first laugh, you get energy and you feed off them and all that. Comedy Zone liked me, so like 3 nights later, I got to do a set in a regular club show setting, where the people didn't know me, and I didn't have any concept of connecting to strangers. And the first joke went bad, and then you don't have the nerves for the stage time. So then once the audience sees blood, they're like sharks. So it was like Mayday, 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 crash. So my second time on stage was horrific, which many comics will tell you that.
I've never heard that before. So let's talk about later on in the career, more specifically to the cruise line business, because most of my audience is cruise lines fans.
Yeah.
How did you progress and how did you get a job? Because I've actually had comedians ask me about getting a job on the cruise ship because I know people at Carnival. How did you progress from becoming a touring comedian to finding a job on a cruise ship? How does that work?
Well, I had people that started working out here, and to be honest with you, maybe 15, 20 years ago, being a cruise ship comic was kind of like, they called them boat acts. And then Carnival, I don't know who started, whether it was Dave Carlo or other people, convinced Carnival that this could be a big opportunity for revenue. And it has been, and they went around and recruited all these comics that are A-list comics, and then all us wannabes to get in the stable. So the comedy out here, not that it was never good, but they just took it up several notches. And you got guys like Bill Martin, and they got Just June, and then you got guys that come out here, guys and ladies that don't even admit on land that they're out here. They just come out here.
Really?
And, yeah.
It seems to me that this would be for a comedian. This would be like a great gig because it's stable most of the time.
It is.
It's you have a regular schedule and you're not having to constantly figure out where to book around the country and make a living that way.
But it's not for everybody because I think my act fits perfectly out here because I do what I call a walking sitcom comedy. Like I'll take a story that maybe it happened to somebody else, like a car in a lake, and that happened to another guy. And then I said, what would that happen if that would happen to me?
Right.
How would I handle that? So I write a whole story about it, which out here, you have such a diversity in these audiences. If you go up there and you start talking politics and religion and everything, you'll lose half the audience, if not all of the audience. Because when half of them go, they're like a flock of birds. You got to get them all flying in your corner. Right. So, I do a very generic, funny, I talk about things that make sense, life and kids and money. If people aren't broke now, they used to be maybe at some time. And so I hit on all those things.
Let's talk about that for a second, then we'll get back to the cruise line aspect of it. What is your process? Are you always you carry a book with you? You're always writing new material and testing it out? What's your process for coming out with material? Now
it's the phone. I talk into the phone and I get notes, and then a day later I'll look in and I'm like, what was I trying to say here? So I need to be more specific on that. But and it's easy once you get 3 shows out here to get complacent and just come out and press play.
Because it's a different audience every week, and
right.
They never heard it.
Which is what's nice about being out here. But on the other hand, like you get an urge to write, you get a bug, and so I write, and you just want to make your show a bulletproof beast anyway, to where you can just walk up and do it, and then.
Have you ever seen something funny happen on a cruise ship and decide you're going to try it on your material, and that person be in the audience?
Well, it wasn't. Not everything starts out to be funny, but we had a circumstance where they made an announcement they were going to do a helicopter airlift because somebody had a heart attack. So bad they had to see. No, this doesn't sound funny right now.
Right now, but to a group of people,
right?
Yeah, sure.
So they had this airlift, and I started noticing the people. I mean, it was the highlight of the ship, the cruise.
Sure, you don't see it every day.
Right. So then I didn't really approach it as how can I make that funny. It was a conversation with the people in the bar afterwards, and I said, the wind was so strong and that helicopter was steady, and then that line for the patient came down and started whipping like this, and they're lowering it for me. I'm saying I'm feeling a lot better now. I wouldn't want any part of that. You're supposed to be have no excitement when you have a heart attack, and then being out over the ocean in a helicopter is not going to help. So I when I wrote the bit, one of the essential things was to make it funny was up front you say we saved the guy's life. So if he lives, now we can laugh at it.
Right, and die as you can, of course.
Yeah. Where initially I said the guy had a heart attack, and you're like, well, where's this going? How's this going to be funny? But if you say this guy had a heart attack, we saved his life, and here's what happened, and then you explain how they tell people while the helicopter's up there they need to stay away from the Lido deck, and then it looks like Times Square on New Year's Eve. Nobody listened, and it's just a sequence of events that make it a funny story.
So specifically for those comedians that might be watching my channel, if they wanted to get a job on Carnival, what's the process? Do you audition for it?
I'm not really sure. They have something on the web page, I think you can, and they have auditions, and they're always out looking for talent, which I hate. I'd like to just I'm out here, leave it alone.
Right. You don't want somebody taking your job, right? I can appreciate that.
But you need about, they say you need like an hour and a half of material, but there's folks out here with a good solid 2.5 hours, and those are the top tier people, and you can come to every one of their shows, you're going to see something different.
Right. And
I only have one show that I repeat, and I'm trying to work on another family show, so I don't have to repeat. But out here, there's no room for experimentation. You gotta come out here and you gotta just kill it every show, and then you do your experimenting when you go back on land and open mics and stuff.
And for those of you who don't know what Sid's talking about, on a cruise line, there's typically 2 different types of shows. There is a general audience shows that's good for children and adults, and then typically after 9 p.m. They'll have, and it's advertised as an adult-rated show, where anything goes. If you get offended, like Sid said last night, just you're asked to leave at the very beginning, and really anything goes, and it's a lot of fun for the adults.
Right. It's comedy club comedy, and what's kind of, I guess, disappointing is a lot of the passengers will turn their nose up at the family shows because they don't think that's real comedy. But some of these PG shows, I'm very proud of my PG shows.
I find them just as funny. I really do.
It's very funny, and they don't have to. It's because kids can come to the show. It doesn't mean you're gonna make balloon animals and juggle it. Well, we have some people that juggle. It's very funny. I'm not saying that, but it's not a.
It's not geared towards children.
No, it's anything you say is an innuendo. It goes right over their head, and it's some of the great shows we have out here are family shows. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to keep you forever. I know you have things to do on the cruise ship. So before I let you go, best and worst parts of working on a cruise ship?
The best parts are the steady work, meeting people, which I'm really shy, and I've been getting better at that.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah, no, Sal, I'll be honest with you, I am more comfortable in front of 1,000 people than I am 2, And if I'm at a party where there's a conversation, I'm not the life of the party. I'm in the background because I don't have that alpha thing going on.
I could actually understand. I was a DJ by trade too. I was on the radio, and I still own a very large wedding DJ, and I'm much more comfortable on a microphone in front of people. And even on my YouTube channel, I get people that approach me regularly as I'm out and about saying, "Hey, you're Sal, can I take a picture?" And I'm much less comfortable with that as the one-on-one interaction as I am, in front of a camera or in front of a big audience.
Right. The one-on-one's fine. It's like the group of 5 or 6 people, especially if there's another person that's a comedian there, because they'll be the life of the party more than I will. I am not a.
And small groups always want you to be funny in that moment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they always want to be entertained even when you're not working.
Yeah. And, I've worked on that, turned that around to where, like, where are you from and all that. Make it about them, and then that's just as important. That's a good thing. And the good thing is it's a steady job, and the rooms are full and everything like that. The bad part of it is you're away from home a lot. The traveling can be taxing. The travel never bothered me that much, other than the time it takes. And then I don't know whether I like this or not, but this being a comedian out here is not for everybody. In that, it's an audience that is in a comedy club. Most people are paid to get in. They're there to see a comedy show, and they know what they're getting into. On a cruise ship, this is one of 100 things to do, and some of these people have never been to a comedy club. So you have to surprise them. You have to bring it on. They kind of have the crossed arm attitude when you get in there, and you make a connection. It's very important to make a connection that first show, to where they think you're funny. They'll come back to the next show, and you've warmed yourself up. You're your own warm-up act, and then it can go good. If the first show goes bad, then you got more work to do.
Right.
And then the bad part about that is you can kill, and have so much fun with an audience. Then we'll go back to port, and the process has to start all over again.
Brand new audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be tough.
And it's nice the first day of the cruise to walk around and nobody knows who you are.
Now you fly on, you don't stay the whole cruise. You fly on at one port and fly off on the last port.
Well, it depends on the cruise. If it's like a 4 or 5 day, I'll stay on the cruise and go out into the ports with everybody else. But if it's a cruise like this where we'll do the first 3 days and then fly off somewhere else, and then 2 more comics will come on.
Very cool. Folks, this is Sid Davis. Again, we're on board the Carnival Glory. I just wanted to thank you for taking part of your day to entertain our audience and let them know a little more what's entailed on working on a cruise ship as a comedian. Please visit Sid's Facebook page. Do you have a YouTube channel?
Sid Davis. Google Sid Davis and the stuff comes up.
And I'll put a link down below in the description. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like more content like this and you want to learn more about the cruise lines, hit that subscribe button. Click the little bell notification. That way YouTube will let you know every time we upload a great video like this. Sid, thank you very much.
Thank you. I had a ball. Appreciate it.